the 14th of April, 2026, Tuesday morning. Today we're going to start something new, and we're going to be reading out of the common Buddhist text for guidance and insight from the Buddha. And this is compiled by the chief editor, or the head, the most venerable Professor Dr. Phra Brahma Pandit. And, or he goes by his other name that was given to him by the king in 2005, Phra Dharmakosajarn. If you guys want to go ahead and look up his biography, or you could go ahead and do so. But we're in part 2 of the Dhamma, or the Dharma. And here we're going to read it in the aspects of Theravada Buddhism, the southern aspect, or the way of the elders, Mahayana, the greater vehicle, and Vajrayana, the lesser vehicle. And we're going to look at the different perspectives of how each group of Buddhist sect see certain aspects of the teachings. Now here, it starts off at page 153. And in Theravada are the qualities of the Buddha, reasons for choosing to practice Buddhism, attitudes to other religions, disputes and tolerances, and the teaching as having a practical focus and the way to liberating knowledge. And we'll read through to approximately 20 to 30 minutes or so, and then we'll leave off and pick up as we usually do. Essentially, we just covered Buddha Dhamma, but remember that the 3 baskets of the Tipitikas comprise over 85,000 texts of the teaching. But it's unique to look at it in this aspect. So we start off here at the characteristics of the teaching, Theravada tradition, the overall nature of the Dhamma. The Dhamma in Pali or Sanskrit, Dharma, is a word with many layers of meaning, as the seconds of the 3 focus to the Buddhist devotions, which we can see are the 3 refuges. The refuge to the Buddha, the refuge to the Dharma, and the refuge to the Sangha. Where it is used in a singular form, the Dhamma means the Buddhist teachings, the realities and principles that these points to the kinds of a basic pattern to things, the path to liberation from suffering that is the main focus of the teachings, and which accords with the nature of reality and the final culmination of the path, nirvana, nibbana, or nibbita, either way you want to say it. Dharma can also mean something like virtue or justice, the right and proper way. As when the king is said to rule according to Dharma, righteously, ethically, as a term used in the plural, dharma or dharma can mean any mental quality, state, or thing. It is the broadest use, an object, real or imaginary, of the mind sense, a principle, truth, or reality pattern. Examples are the 4 noble truths of the noble ones. Now, the qualities of the Dharma The first paragraph of this passage is part of the text that is frequently chanted in Pali in devotional settings, as well as being reflected in a devotional meditation. Master Gautama, in what way is the Dharma directly visible as to the truth and reality, not delayed in its results, inviting investigation, applicable and onward leading, to be individually understood by the wise for themselves? Hindu Brahmin, one excited by attachment, overcome by attachment, wills in manner leading to the affliction of himself, others, and both. He experiences mental pain and unhappiness. But when attachment is abandoned, and he does not will in the manner leading to affliction of himself, others, and both, he does not experience mental pain and unhappiness. It is in this way that the Dharma is directly visible. The same is then repeated regarding being affected or free of hate or delusion. The next but one sutra then states that just the same, except for the replacement of Dharma with Nibbana, Nibbida, or Nirvana. Now this is from the Antaraya Brahma Sutra and the Nibbida Sutra from the Anguttara Nikaya. You can find it there thus. The Dharma as profound. In this passage, Gautama Buddha reflects on the profound Dharma he has experienced at his awakening. He then explains that at this twofold, the process of dependent horizon, or dependent origination, to sum it up, is basically if this occurs, this will happen. If this is eliminated, this will happen, and so forth. From the forward sequence to the backward sequence. This is the sequence of condition leading to rebirth of conditions and the continuation of what is painful. And Nibbida, Nibbana, or Nirvana, as the stopping of such conditions. Unlike Nirvana, Nibbida, conditionality is not something one takes in refuge in, but understanding it is part of the Dhamma as the path. The Dharma that I have attained is profound, hard to see, hard to understand, peaceful, sublime, unattainable by mere reasoning, subtle to be experienced by the wise. So basically, it has to be a practical application. But this population delights in clinging, especially to what is familiar, enjoys clinging and rejoices in clinging. It is hard for such a population to see this state, namely specific conditionality, dependent arising, the law of causality. And it is hard to see this state, namely the stilling of all volitional construction, meaning your intentions, your created intentions, the relinquishments of all accusations, the destruction of craving, non-attachment, cessation, and finally, Nibbida, Nibbana, Nirvana. Now this is from the Arya Pariyesana Sutra in the Majjhima Nikaya. You can find it there thus. Reasons for choosing to practice Buddhism. Bhikkhu monks. The purpose of the holy life is not lived to deceive people, for prattling with people for the benefit of gain, hospitality, and praise, to defend one's theory, not with the thought, let people know me. Bhikkhu monks. The holy life is lived for the purpose of restraint, relinquishment, non-attachment, release, cessation of suffering. This could be found in the Uvela Vaga Brahmacharya Sutra in the Anguttara Nikaya. So you can read it further. Thus, attitudes to other spiritual traditions. The Dhamma is not for converting others, but to help them to better themselves. In this passage, Gautama Buddha speaks to a non-Buddhist wandering ascetic. Footnote. During that time, these wandering ascetics are made of Jainas and Hindus. So non-Buddhist wandering ascetics. And the emphasis that he wants to help people progress morally and spiritually, and not in such to gain disciples. Nirota, you may think the renunciant Gautama says that this is in order to his pupils. But you should not regard it like that. Let him who is your teacher remain your teacher. Or you may think he wants us to depart from our instructions. He wants to establish us in those things that are unwholesome and reckon as wholesome according to our teachers. He wants us to draw away from the things that are wholesome and reckoned to as wholesome according to our teachers. But you should not regard it like that. Let whatever is wholesome and reckoned as wholesome according to your teachers remain the same, Nirodka. I do not speak for any of these reasons. There are, Nirodka, unwholesome things that have not been abandoned, defile and conductive to rebirth, distress, productive of pain, results, association with future birth, decay, and death. It is for this abandonment of these things that I expound the teaching. If you practice accordingly, the defiled things will be abandoned, and these things that make for purification will grow, and you will attain to and dwell in this very life, in the fullness of insight and perfection, having realized it directly by your own higher knowledge. This could be found in the Udambarika Sihananta Sutra in the Dika Nikaya. Now, this is interesting to me. This is interesting because Gautama Buddha basically telling the other not wandering ascetics, either the Jains or the Hindus, not to abandon their teaching from their teacher, either it be sacrifice to the fire or fire worship or other kinds of asceticism of the body and so forth. But he's basically saying that to get rid of the unwholesome and purify for the prevention of rebirth, of pain and suffering, of conditioning, of rebirth in this lifetime. He's not talking about rebirth in another lifetime. So forth. Actions that are unwholesome, like examples are the upakilesas that defile the mental state. And I find that interesting. Now, disputes and tolerance. Gautama Buddha advanced to his disciples on how to respond to criticism and accusations. Dispasses counsels calm assessment of any criticism or praise directed at the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha in the Bhikkhu community or the layman community, the Buddhist community. Bhikkhu monks. If others should speak in dispraise of me, of the Dharma, and of the order, the Sangha, You should not then either bear malice, nor become unhappy or feel depressed in mind. If you feel any angry or displeased, it would be a danger to you yourself. If others speak in dispraise of me, of the Dharma, and of the Sangha, and then you feel angry and displeased, would be able to know whether what others have spoken has been well spoken or ill spoken. That would not be so, sir. But when others speak in dispraise of me, or of the Dharma, or of the Bhikkhu Sangha, you should unravel what is contrary to fact as contrary to fact, pointing out it is not accurate accordance with fact. It is not like that. This fault is not found in us. Bhikkhu monks, if others should praise of me and praise of the Dharma and praise of the Bhikkhu Sangha, then you should not feel delighted, happy or elated in mind. That would be damaging to you yourself. When others speak in praise of me or the Dharma or the Sangha, you should acknowledge what is factual as factual, saying this is accordance with fact. It is like this. This quality is found in us. Now, this can be found in depth, in detail, in the Brahmajara Sutra, in the Dikha Nikaya. So the causal origins of dispute. In this passage, Gautama Buddha says that he disputes with no one, and that dispute arises due to fixed concepts that arise from how one mentally processes and elaborates on one perceives. The Sakyan Dhanapani approach, where the Blessed One was seated, exchanged friendly greetings in Anjali, and stood on one side leaning on a stick and said thus, "What theory does the renunciant Gautama hold? And what does he expound? The theory I hold is such that in the case of the Hindu Brahmin, like myself, living without being fettered by sensual desires, kama gunas, free from perplexity, with worry cut off, craving for various kinds of existence abandoned, and for whom conceptions do not lie latent, he says without disputing with anyone in this world consisting of gods, maras, and brahmas, renunciants, Brahmins, deities, and humans. Brother, I hold such a theory, and so I do expound." When this was said, the Sakyandanapani shook his head, put out his tongue, and showing creases like 3/4 of his forehead, went away leaning on his sticks. Later, Gautama Buddha reported this conversation to some of his Bhikkhu monks. Then a certain monk said to the Blessed One, "Holding what theory does the Blessed One once say without disputing with anyone in this world consisting of gods, Brahmas, and Brahmas? And how, sire, is it that conceptions do not lie latent in the Blessed One, who is living without being fettered by sensual desires?" The Blessed One said, "Bhikkhu monk, on whatever account reckoning is terms of conceptual obsessions, over whom a person, if for him there is nothing in to delight in, nothing to welcome, nothing to cleave to, then it is itself the end of the latent tendencies to attachment, aversion, dogmatic beliefs, dogma. So dogmatic beliefs are beliefs that are not verifiable. Doubt, conceits to attachment to ways of beings, ignorance, and the end of latent tendencies to take up the sticks and weapons to fight, quarrel, dispute, accusations, slanders, and lie. Here all these evil, unwholesome, akusala dharmas, unwholesome states, cease without remainder. The Blessed One said thus, getting up from his seat, enter the monastery. Soon as the Blessed One has gone into the monastery, it occurred to those Bhikkhu monks. The Blessed One pointed out the teaching in brief to us and left without explaining its meaning in detail. Venerable Mahakana is capable of explaining it to us in detail. Then the Bhikkhu monks approached Venerable Mahakana, requested him, Venerable Mahakana, please explain it. So, Venerable Mahakana explained as follows. Friends, on the account of the eye and visible forms arises visual consciousness. The coming together of the three is sensuary contact. On account of contact, vedana, feeling arises. When vedana is conceptualized, so when feeling conceptualizes, and what is conceptualized is thought about. Regarding what is thought about, one engages in obsessive proliferation of thought. On account of that, reckoning in terms of conceptual obsession overwhelms a person in respects of the past, in respects of the future, and in respects of the present form, discernible by visual sense. And that's just the eye. And then we could do it with all the sense doors, ayatana. The same is then repeated regarding the interaction that takes place between the other sense faculties, the indriyas, and their corresponding stimuli, including the mind and mental objects, would be cetasikas or ramanas. Now, this could be read on further in the Matupindika Sutra in the Majjhima Nikaya. How quarrels arise. The passage emphasizes how clinging to possession leads to quarrels. Now, in the case of ananta, craving, tanha, remember, there is a positive form of desire and the negative form of desire. The negative form of desire would be craving, in this instant, tanha. The positive form of desire is chanta. But here we're speaking on the negative form of desire, which is tanha. Craving is dependent on feeling, vedana. Seeking is dependent on craving. Gain is dependent on seeking. Deciding what to do with what has been gained is dependent on gain. Desire and attachment is dependent on deciding. Excessive attachment is dependent on desire and attachment. Acquisitiveness is dependent on excessive attachment. Miserliness is dependent on acquisitiveness. Protectiveness is dependent on miserliness. And because of protectiveness, various evil, unwholesome phenomena come into being, such as the taking up of sticks and sharp weapons, fights, quarrels, disputes, accusations, slanders, and lies. Now, this sutra is a long one, and this is from the Mahanityanan Sutra in the Dika Nikaya. Dogmatic cling to views as source of disputes. The following verse comes from 4 discourses, 4, from the section of the Sutra Nipata called the Antaka Vaga. This section is very is a very early Buddhist text, as shown as by being quoted in several other early texts. It particularly emphasizes non-attachment to views and opinions. Some speak with evil mind, while others speak intent on truth. A sage does not enter into a dispute that has arisen. Therefore, nowhere has he an obstruction. How can someone go beyond a dogmatic view of his own that he has entered into desire and preference? Now that is a question. He would speak according to his understanding. For whomsoever there is dogmatic views, esteemed by impure, reached by speculations, and so constructed, whatever one sees as advantageous to himself, clinging to it, there is to him a calm dependent on what is unstable. To the purified ones, no views based on speculation are to be found with regard to the different forms of existence. Having abandoned both hypocrisy and pride, but what he would be led into the cycle of rebirth for the unattached he is. One who is attached enters into disputes regarding theories. Why and on account of what one has asserted a theory when is unattached. He has nothing taken up or laid down. Here itself he has purified all dogmatic views. They say only this is pure. There is no purity in other doctrines, speaking about the existence of whatever they are attached to. They are separately established in individual truths. Having plunged into the crowd desiring a dispute, they call all other fools. They engage in contentious talk, clinging to different opinions, being desirous of praise, calling themselves skilled people. One who imagines in terms of being equal, superior, or inferior, on that account comes to dispute. For one who is not stirred by these three ways, the thought, I am equal or superior, does not occur. What would the Hindu Brahmin say is the truth? Or on what account would the dispute say it is false? In whom there is no sense of being equal or unequal, on what account would he dispute? To one who is detached from fixed perceptions, there is no bonds. To one who is released through insight, there is no delusions. Whoever grasps fixated perceptions and dogmatic views, they wander in the world, coming to dispute, clinging to their own view. The skilled ones, experts, come to dispute and affirm diverse theories. He who knows thus understands the doctrine, and those who revile this are imperfect, they say. In the manner, too, they quarrel and debate. They say that other person is a fool, unskilled, which indeed among them is the true theory. They all speak as skilled people. If one who is not agreeing with another person's doctrine becomes a fool, a beast, and one who of inferior wisdom, then really are all fools and of much inferior wisdom, for all of them cling to dogmatic views. If by virtue, however, one's own view, one becomes pure of purified insight, skilled and knowledgeable, then none among them is lacking in wisdom, for they too possess the conclusively grasped views. Still, I do not say that what fools separately declare among themselves is the reality. Each one of them makes their own dogmatic view true. That is why they consider others as fools. What some say is true or real, others may mean and say is false. In this manner, too, the quarrel and dispute, Therefore, renunciants do not declare a uniform truth. There is one truth that there is not a second, in regard to which one truth people who understand do not come to dispute. Renunciants esteem diverse truth of their own. This is why they do not declare a uniform truth. Why indeed do who claim to be skilled ones, they who propound theories, speak of diverse truths? It is indeed the case that there are many and diverse truths, but isn't that case that they're just following the course of other logical reasoning? There surely are not many and diverse eternal truths in the world, apart from the perceptual interpretations. They engage in speculative reasoning in respect of dogmatic views and declare of two teachings, true and false. Again, this argument about this is true. Because according to the Buddha, he said, don't believe me. Investigate and see for yourself. Verify it yourself. So this is from the Dutantaka. Also, it's in the Pa Sura. Also, it's in the Manka Nika and the Kula Vichaya Sutras. This is from the Sutta Pitaka. I'm going to stop there today. And we will pick up on the characteristics of the teachings of Theravada tradition, from the parable of the blind men and the elephant and undetermined issues. This is from the common Buddhist text, Guidance from Insight from the Buddha. And it is the chief editor at the time, the most venerable professor, Dr. Brahma Pandit. But he changed his name to Phra Dharmakosajarn.